We had a similar case on the Southern Bypass, that they just woke up one day and put road bumps. And the drivers, because they were not acclimatized, and if you know the bump I'm speaking about on El Selassie, Mr. Speaker, it is not your normal sized bump. So it is very possible that some of the decisions that are being taken by the road authorities are actually contributing to the accidents that we are seeing in the country. That could be preventable. And on that note, Mr. Speaker, allow me also to pass my condolences to the students of Kenyatta University following that accident. Finally, Mr. Speaker, on this freedom of speech, I am beginning to like this House. Ever since last week, Mr. Speaker, and the vote that was taken involving the matter from Kisi, I am starting to like this House, because I have argued repeatedly that there is something called an objective truth. People in the opposition know that the sun rises from the east, and that should also be true for the people who support government or are elected from the government coalition. So, Mr. Speaker, I like when I hear Senator Nyutu speaking as passionately as he has this afternoon about freedom of speech. Mr. Speaker, let me just say that today, me together with Senator for Vihiga, we attended the funeral service of Dr. Chakava, who is a foremost publisher, Mr. Speaker, one of the people who founded the East African Publishers. And in his eulogy, Mr. Speaker, they told us that this was a person who had the courage to publish things in that era where publication of things against government could actually attract a death penalty for you. And Mr. Chakava, Mr. Speaker, was writing, publishing books by people like Ngugi wa Thiong'o at a time when we had sedition on our books, at a time when subversion was still a crime in this country, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Chakava himself, Dr. Chakava, we were told in his story, was one day followed by goons, presumably sent by government types. And they beat him up very badly, Mr. Speaker, and cut off one of his fingers. This is something that was happening way back in the 70s and 80s when we were under one-party rule. We will never allow ourselves to go back to that particular period in time. I have loved hearing the Senator for Kirinyaga saying, people who put themselves in public spaces must grow thick skin. That is exactly what I was trying to say yesterday, that in fact, even in this House, people who have had experience in politics of the types of the president doesn't need to be protected from hecklers, Mr. Speaker. So when I see the CS for Interior, instead of looking for the people who killed Sniper in Meru, he's going to look for the people who heckled the president in Bomet. Mr. Speaker, my reading and understanding of Article 33 puts only 3 limitations on the freedom of speech. And I can read them out here for record, Mr. Speaker. Number 1, freedom of speech does not extend to propaganda for war, incitement to violence, and advocacy for hatred. That is the only limitation on freedom of speech. You are allowed to boo public officials, Mr. Speaker. You are allowed to insult us. Personally, Mr. Speaker, immediately I got myself into public space. I grew a thick skin. I don't even block people who insult me on social media. I want to keep reading those insults every day so that I know that for as long as I am pissing off the people who are against the things that I say, I am on the right track. So, Mr. Speaker, we cannot be in a country where we are eliminating people for their political views because they have criticized you, because they don't like what you're saying, because they have opposing views. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge this House, and together with the Senator of Meru, I want to pledge my support. We want a speedy resolution to the murder of this young man, Mr. Speaker, because this is something that should not be happening in the kind of times that we live in today in this country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senator wa Nairobi. Last but not the least, Senator Manzo Daniel Kitonga. Sorry?
I had contributed on this one.
On
I'm waiting on the next matter.
On the statements.
Yes, yes.
But I cannot see Senator Betty on my screen. No, not yet.